So there you go. So the future of Norwest after the lockdown, what exactly does that look like? And we're so excited to be hearing from the Executive General Manager, Tim Spencer from Mulpha Norwest. I had to do that because I think there was a bit of a glitch. So reintroducing you to make sure everyone got that correctly. Welcome.
No worries.
Perfect.
These days I've had a title change, to be honest.
Okay.
I'm actually the head of Mulpha Developments, which encompasses Queensland as well, which is a really fascinating market, and also our stuff in Malaysia, which at the moment isn't so fascinating. But it's a really exciting time to be a part of Mulpha and with what's going on. So let's get stuck into it. Let's talk about it, shall we?
So talking about the what has happened, how has that impacted the development? So has that sort of put on a bit of a pause, or has it sort of accelerated the time? Have you gone back to the drawing board and said, okay, well, what else can we change now that we know the future is going to be different, and we'll have to take these things into consideration that are out of our control? What are some of the things that might have impacted your decision?
I think we've been lucky on a couple of fronts. I think the number one proposition has been our strong brand and trusted brand position in our local markets. What we saw in the first lockdown, kind of at the start of last year, was we only saw about a month pause in our sales, and we all kind of knocked off a couple of days off our working week, thinking that the world was imploding. But within 4 weeks, we were like, actually, this is not stopping for us. And in fact, our sales picked up. And I think it was because of the trusted brand position. So, off the back of that, it was in the middle of last year where we actually got the corporate confidence to actually really start going on a few of our projects. And that was, the Bond, and we'll talk through them in more detail, Singh City, the next stage of Norwest Quarter, the next stages of Essentia Townhouses, our first apartment product at Sanctuary Cove in southeast Queensland. Like, it was the middle of last year where we actually kind of looked at the market and said, you know what, there's been constrained supply because of planning across the eastern seaboard of Australia, and the demand is now going to far outstrip supply, and we just started to see it in prices. So we started jacking prices in the middle of the lockdown last year, and by the end of by kind of fourth quarter last year, I think the general market had kind of realized, holy cow, this is starting to go, and you started to see that fear of missing out starting to creep into the market. So I think from our point of view, COVID spun around our brand in a real positive way, and then truly underpinning that for us was that we were already on the road in terms of wellness in design and a true wellness lifestyle, and thinking about our product being more than just the bricks and mortar. So, fundamentally, it was really nice for me to have a CEO kind of wanting to talk specific projects and not really caring about brand or wellness. It was about kind of success and deals and getting it done. But COVID for him was a complete 180 degrees, where he basically goes, wow, I've seen the power of the brand, and wow, this wellness proposition is just the future. And for us, realistically, we'd had a couple of years, because wellness and true lifestyle and changing our position on product happened with the launch of Norwest Smart City, which was November 2017. So, for us, it was just a reinforcement that we're on the right path, and that was the best thing for us. And so, middle of last year, we were able to get that real corporate confidence to press the button on the projects maybe we should talk about now.
Yeah, talking about that, the latest approval that's come through was the Singh City on the corner of Norbrick Drive. So when's the anticipation start date for that?
What is that about? What is it's a confidence?
So Singh City is essentially a family event centre, and so for us, it's there for corporate and families events, anchored with the driving range 40 bays of driving range infrastructure that's all teed up with the latest golf technology, so it's videoing you and you're seeing where your ball goes and all that kind of jizzy jazz.
Yep.
But for us, it's al fresco entertainment and dining. We had for a while there in the plan, we had an axe throwing alley. We've got mini golf down there. We've got separate marquees and areas for corporate events or weddings or whatever you might think of. But we think one of the things with Smart City was the recognition that realistically we'd probably done the food, beverage and entertainment in Norwest pretty poorly. We only got our first pub in the place I think it was back in 2008 or something, with the Bella Vista Hotel. But it was kind of interesting that it was something we truly recognised that we needed more of. And so Swing City kind of has been is an important component of that Smart City that we're trying to get through. So it's just our inquiry on that has gone nuts. In terms of people wanting to work there, it's been pretty funny actually. We've had a lot of people ring up and put their hand up.
Oh, very good. So the earthworks have started.
And that's the exciting part, isn't it? We drive past and we see, oh wow, there's this is happening, really happening. What is the
date? Well, we really were pushing hard to try and have it open for Christmas. Look, COVID has probably smashed us on that desire, but it's definitely going to be first quarter next year. So
it's not too far away.
Not too.
No, not at all. And the Bond across the road, our 10,000 square metre first timber building in Norwest, that's going to be open kind of August. So kind of next year is going to be a really exciting time for that area down there. I think we're going to see some really good activity. So
and it's well deserved after everything that's happened now. I think that's going to be really pulling the confidence of everyone as well, to be able to see all of this development happening in such close proximity to where they are. So it makes you proud that this is where you belong. This is where
it does. Look, I as you know, I've been with Mulpha now for 16 years. And we launched the Circa precinct down there around the hospital back in 2007. So it's been a long time coming to actually see some serious momentum starting to hit the ground. And a lot of that has also come off the back of the local council's endorsement of the planning changes, and they only kind of did that final endorsement last month. So there's they've consolidated, or is it the word consolidated? They've locked it in stone now in regards to the timeline, which is what corporates really need to invest. The biggest risk in today's world is the timeline of investment. And so when timelines are uncertain, that breeds a lack of confidence from a corporate sector point of view to invest. You lock up your timelines, don't worry about what the returns are, lock up the timelines and the market will deal with the return margin. It's just timelines of the unknown. So lock it down and then let the market go for it. And I think, from my point of view, that's the key message to authorities these days, is that don't overthink it. Let the market deal with it, but give the market definite timelines. So we're excited. The Circa's going to go off.
I reckon that's the next thing.
There's some other things happening down there that I can't tell you about that are really positive, that again a little bit more entertainment focus. So it's good.
Great news.
And we see the billboards on our way into the office, and a more premium alternative is coming soon. So we're excited about that one as well on Solent Circuit. Is there anything we can say about that yet, or is that still under development?
No, I'll give you the insight on that. Look, we're working really hard for our stage one of what we're calling Norwest Quarter. We're looking for a formal release of that, fingers crossed. We're working towards October. And so there's a hell of a lot going on behind the scenes with that. but just to put that in context, and this is really exciting, that's about, I'll probably get the numbers wrong here, but it's about 3,000 square metres of public open space wrapped with retail, about 4,000 square metres of retail. We're looking at some really exciting retailers in there, and 200 apartments on top of that. So for us, the land immediately opposite the Haven apartment project, that is going to be a buzzing little part of Norwest. And as you know, it's called Norwest Quarter. And that kind of, that name goes back to the Smart City 2017 launch, in regards to identifying kind of the 3 different town centres that will or activity centres, if you want to call it that, in Norwest, between Norwest Metro Station and the area surrounding that area is going to be kind of really the buzz, the nightlife, I hope the education component. And then we've got the Bella Vista Station precinct, which is going to be a little bit more convenience driven. Like that is the commuter car park. That's going to be a little bit more, let's call it fringe. And then you've got the Circa precinct wrapped around the hospital, which is going to stay more corporate. There isn't going to be the residential mixed use down there. So that's definitely going to be a more corporatized commercial zone, obviously anchored in medical. So Norwest Quarter, the sense of a quarter, is always the nightlife. It's where the real activity is going to be. We're pretty excited that we've finally got that planning approval, got through governments back in August last year under an accelerated program with the state. And we've got the DA in now, and we're hoping that DA, if anyone from council is listening, we're hoping that DA comes out soon.
Yeah, I'll pass it on.
But we, I'm gearing up to have a bulldozer on site in February. So, not mucking around.
Very
Absolutely.
good. Very good. So will there be commercial space in Norwest Quarter, or just retail and residential?
There's a little bit, not too much. We've tried to keep it to the retail and entertainment stuff, but there is kind of there will be kind of one row of commercial / retail facing Natura Rise.
Okay.
So maybe you can get your office down there too.
Yeah, bought a few in the area. Add another one.
But I'm really excited about that project, because that project for us is next evolution.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And the Coles building, there's always been talk about the future of that building. Is there anything in the pipeline that we can discuss there? Was that stage, the next phase?
Well, look, I'll be completely frank. The Landcom owns the additional land on the Norwest Station site, on the Brook Hollow side of the station there.
Yeah.
Landcom brought that land to market quite some time ago in a formal process, and we considered that a very strategic parcel, and what we wanted to do was work with governments in order to get that planning proposal approved, and at the same time discuss the market town planning proposal, and actually have the whole centre around the Norwest Station determined together. Now, for whatever reasons, that sale process wasn't concluded. Landcom decided that they needed to complete the planning process on their own and independently, and so that kind of parked the concept of actually sorting out that zone in unity, which was disappointing to us, but I can understand sometimes, really. But the exciting part, if you put that aside, and it is what it is, the exciting part is that Landcom got their planning proposal approved on that site last month as well. So that's fantastic. That site is for 55,000 square metres of space, which is a lot of space, in 3 towers, I think up to 15 levels, maybe a little bit more. And so, we're pretty excited that finally, since the metro was opened in May 2018, we might actually see some action on one of these metro sites. So, you know, for us, you're saying, well, what does that mean to Market Town? That was my question, Tim. For us, it's actually solidifying something within that zone's timeline. And so for us, we can actually finally sit down and have a good corporate discussion around, okay, well, there's something big going to happen here and we know its timeline. So now how do we respond to that? And so until last month, we weren't able to have that discussion because we just didn't know where the really big movers were going to happen there. And so, you know, our master plan there that I think was reported on pretty early is basically to take the existing shopping centre of 11,500 square metres, double that to about 25,000 square metres, push it down and connect it to the rail. There's already a tunnel under Norwest Boulevard, and then put 80,000 square metres of commercial on top of that shopping centre, and then put 1,000 apartments on top of that. So, you know, that's a big project, and the way we've actually got it staged enables us, I think, to pick it off quite well, and you know, we can potentially do that in unison with the Landcom site and what's coming, and so try and get that very centre of town, both sides of kind of Norwest Boulevard wrapped around the station, going together. So, you know, for us, you know, I'd like to see some strategic planning and understanding of the timeline of that within the next 6 months.
Exciting! Wow,
that should be crazy. I think very great for the area.
I think fundamentally, you know, what we're seeing is finally some of these big planning proposals that have been in the wind for kind of, you know, 5+ years starting to come through. So kind of when you look at the Bella Vista Station and Lexington Drive precinct, you know, Bella Vista Station itself has about 50-odd thousand square metres of commercial, 15,000 of retail, and 3,000 to 4,000 apartments, and some other uses in there as well, in terms of the master planning that had been talked about. And so that, you know, that's a sizable uplift down there. Circa's about to double in space over the time, and then what happens around Norwest. So when we look at the 300,000 square metres of commercial and the kind of 6,000 residents that are in Norwest today, you know, finally the pillars of planning are being put in place to ensure that at least triples. And, you know, for me, you know, we've got to manage the transport and the traffic. And yes, they are issues, but there's a journey to be had on them. But fundamentally, in terms of a precinct and its underlying economic GDP that it will bring to this part of Sydney is now becoming undeniable. So, you know, for me, it's kind of like, when are we actually going to see the Norwest price pop? I don't think we've seen it yet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think there's a bit to go.
There is, and you know, property around here has just been phenomenal. Like, you know, Bella Vista Waters, as you would know as well, like a block of land, 700 square metre block, is selling for 2.5 million. That's just a piece of dirt.
I can remember, I can't remember the date, right, but I can remember us, Chamonix Way, which is the top of Bella Vista Waters. I remember launching that, and I remember I probably shouldn't say his name, but Painey bought a block of dirt for $1,000 a metre. And I tell you what, we were high-fiving, we were popping the champagne, we thought it was bloody amazing that, you know, we'd actually broken the $700,000 barrier.
Yeah.
And I think it was back in 2012, maybe it's ringing a bell, but you know, to think over the last decade, not quite a decade, but it's gone from 700 to 2.4. You know, that is phenomenal. And you kind of sit there and you scratch yourself and go, you know, how can Tim be saying that the price pop hasn't happened yet?
Exactly. But it hasn't. We know.
Well, when you look at apartments, right, you can go and buy yourself an apartment at this moment in time for $9,000 to $10,000 a metre at Norwest, which is ludicrous. But you can't buy that out the back of the sticks, right? and I just kind of sit there and I go, people haven't woken up to the 10-year horizon for Norwest yet. Because just the employment opportunities that will fully underpin the financial success of Norwest are only just starting to turn. That's why I basically think kind of, Norwest is still good buying. Look, and when you're talking about a commercial precinct, ultimately the size of Parramatta downtown, how much would a 700 square metre standalone house cost? Where could you get that in downtown Parramatta? Like, you just couldn't get it, right? And that's what makes those Bella Vista lots unbelievable, because they're in the heart of a city.
100%.
They're actually quite special. You don't see that in new master planned precincts anymore. You'll never get it. You'll never get freestanding homes that big in a CBD. And I had one more comment. You guys get me excited. I love it.
There you go.
There was something else. Anyway.
Residential. No, look,
that's a good mix, and with all these developments coming up, like, it's only going to pump it further.
I think, and a lot of people would hear that and start screaming traffic. Other people would start saying, "Oh, I'm trying to add up all the apartments Tim's talking about, and there has to be an oversupply of apartments." Well, I can tell you what, if you add them up, and we can quickly do it, Sekasui's got 1,300. We've got 1,000 on Solent Circuit. The other guys there have got 300. So that's what, 2,600. Add 1,000 on Market Town, that's 3,600, and add 3,000 down at Bella Vista, that's 6,000. I tell you what, 6,000 apartments sounds like a sensational number, but it's not.
It's not.
Not when you've got a working population of kind of 60 to 80,000 on the doorstep. And so, I actually think it's underdone. And I'm not talking my own book there. I really like those numbers. I think those numbers are really economically sustainable and good for capital growth, which is what you want your customers to have. And so, like all property, I think Norwest is a good investment place, but you got to be prepared to hold. You got to be. It's a 10-year horizon. It's a minimum 5. And so, if you've got that foresight and long-term belief, then Norwest will be a cracker.
Absolutely. Now let's talk about, as we were talking offline, about the impact of COVID. Some people have said COVID clarity, or the changes that they've made to the future of how they do business. How has that? Has there been any changes based on COVID that you would say have changed things around from Mulpha's point of view? How have you seen, or what are your predictions after this is ending? Where would we be going?
Well, look, Mulpha is a pretty big conglomerate, which is great. We have a very strong education component. We have a very strong hospitality and hotels component. Obviously, our hospitality and hotels have been really impacted severely. But, the silver lining is fundamentally, when what we've seen is the international market's completely disappeared. But what we've seen is when there's no lockdowns, the actual local market has truly all but filled the gaps. And, we actually think that is something that is being driven from the core, being almost a rediscovery of Australia and just how good it is. And we think that our education platforms are fantastic, and I think everyone's always known the Australian platforms are great. But just the fact that we think that people won't rush overseas for their holidays, and it has been a real pleasant thing to actually talk to people and for them to say, look, we haven't skied in Australia for a couple of years, but we did it last year, and actually we really enjoyed it. And we went up to Hayman, and geez, it's a magical place, isn't it? It's really Australian. And I go, yeah, it hasn't changed, has it? And so, I think for us as a business, it's probably just driven back to authenticity and really understanding that that's what the customer wants. And so, it's turned that on its head. In terms of our staff, I think we've tried to be a very balanced business. We're very team culture driven. We're a very flat management structure. And, I think the team support through COVID has just strengthened those personal ties in a really positive way that will just continue. And I think, that employer of choice kind of dream that every employee wants to be, I think we've really recognised how important that is for staff. I think that is going to be a really important thing for businesses going forward, that they are recognised as an employer of choice. I was reading the article the other day from, is it Glenn Stevens, the RBA bloke, saying, I thought there was more downside risk in the market than upside risk, right? Because of the boom we've kind of had over the last kind of 6 months or so. But I ended up putting that back in the box, thinking, Tim, you've just been locked up too long and you're starting to get negative, get out and go for a run. Yeah. So I did that and then read this article from Glenn Stevens, and he was basically saying his predictions are this year, unemployment's at 4.9%. Next year, it'll be 4.5%. In 2023, it's 4%. Right? And, he's sitting there saying, mate, the RBA is not changing their policies in regards to there's a boom on the back of this and it'll be strong. And, their policies, I think, are more considering how we control wage inflation and other cost pressures. And, for me, fundamental, the underlying fundamental way to control cost is through supply. You increase supply, you give customers options, and then that keeps a lid on pricing. So, fundamentally, I kind of turned myself around in a day and went, you know what, we just need to get set for the new world, which I think is going to be more dynamic. People are going to want and understand authenticity, and they don't want service. It's about the service.
That's it.
Yeah,
perfect.
100%. Looking forward to it.
There you go. Well, any final words before we finish off?
Yeah.
I didn't know how long we had. We should have asked
that. We can talk here forever, and we're happy to answer any questions afterwards as well. I'm sure once it's distributed to all of the local groups as well, there might be some questions which will direct your way. But yeah, happy to answer. So
thank you. Thank you so much for the insight. So looking forward to all these developments coming up. So yeah, should be exciting.
Pleasure to be delivering them to the team.
Perfect. Thank you so much for your time. I'll just end this now. Thank you.
Thank you.